is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
It'll make you think you're sitting in your local watering hole. It's sports, beer, and shenanigans. So sit back, grab a few beers, and let's get in.
Welcome into the Brutally Honest Sports Podcast, teaming up with the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. Always appreciative when my friends north of the border will join me. It's actually colder here, which might be a sign of the apocalypse. I don't know, but we got Brent probably riding high after all these Yankee signings from his boy Brian Cashman. How's Brent doing these days?
I'm doing really good. Christmas is right around the corner. Yesterday at the office, we had some actually fun stuff. We talked some like baseball for once instead of business, which was nice, and wound up the year. And now we're still talking baseball and sports. Everything's good, and yeah, it's the holiday season now is upon us. So why not have some fun and talk some sports?
Yeah, absolutely. We're in the we're in the home stretch here of the holiday season. I don't do that calendar that I used to as a kid. You'd open like the window. I don't know if you ever did that. And then
the advent calendars, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the damn shame to grow up. I mean, it's not what I signed up for. But
well, it's funny you say that. Me and the wife went out for a couple of beers last night after I got done something else on this stupid thing, but. I was laughing at there's people that were there and the university courses were done or whatever, and they're sitting there and they're smiling and laughing. And I said to the wife, I said, do these people have any idea what they're getting themselves into? Like they're getting old and they're all smiling and having a good time. And and you shouldn't be negative and you should try to carry on. But there was a couple of girls I was thinking, these two little girls, they're about 21, 22 years old. They have no idea what they're getting themselves into in about 3 years. When all this is done and you got to go to work and your car won't start and you got no money and blah, blah, blah. I was like, stay young forever, man, if you can, because it's not that it gets real tough, but it gets tough sometimes.
It gets tougher, right? It gets tougher. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, going back to a couple of years ago, like things were, I don't know. I don't want to turn 30, but sports podcast, not a life podcast, but I kind of wanted to just get right into, stick on the topic of baseball there. A lot of things going on in the free agency period. I mean, they're never going to compete with like the NFL and stuff like that to get headlines, but Yankees make a couple moves there. I mean, were you surprised first off that Nestor got dealt? I mean, I guess the writing was on the wall after the World Series, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think the thing with Nestor, he was a shiny new toy, and he had the gimmicky pitch and the different moves, and he looked like Mario Brothers and the whole bit. And I was it was a gimmick for a while, and it worked. But then it kind of, I think with him, once it wasn't as effective as it could be. They sold when he was I don't want to say high, but he was a mid-tier guy right now, so they could probably go get a couple of guys to help their team right now. And Nestor was probably on the outside looking in, and he made it be known he wanted to be a starter, and he felt he should have been a starter, and he just wasn't going to be when they went out and signed Max Fried. I think the writing was on the wall, like you said, that he was probably going to be on the outside looking in, and that's the way it kind of turned out.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly think the Yankees, as long as Devin Williams stays healthy, I think they kind of made out with like bandits in that deal, just because. I mean, he's a great pitcher. He's had his struggles in the postseason, which is a little, concerning, I guess you could say. But the guy's like top tier reliever when he's healthy. So, I mean, to trade, like you said, to trade off to trade off Nestor Cortez there. While he still had some value, I think I would do that trade 10 times out of 10 times. Like
every single time, if you get a reliever, and especially a guy that's on his he's on a contract year, you don't know how many years, and especially guys that you don't know, they could pitch today and be done tomorrow with the way guys are so worried about their velocity and how hard they throw ball forward, and it's crazy to think that you can go out and just get a guy that's Milwaukee. And that's one thing I didn't understand was why Milwaukee was so, because they had a playoff team and they're a good why they were so they felt the need to get rid of a guy. Why not hold on to him? And if you can get to another 10, 20, whatever wins or WAR or whatever the hell, and then put yourself in a position, then trade him, why not? Like, I don't understand what the need is for these managers and general managers, like you were saying, at the winter meetings to try to make news. I don't understand. Like, it's like they almost make trades just to make trades to be relevant. It doesn't make sense why these things happen during the winter meetings, because no one's watching anyways, like you said, because the NFL's on and now you got the college football playoff is on. So why bother? Why bother to make news now? Why not wait till after the Super Bowl, after spring training? Who cares where the guy works out? I don't understand why these guys feel the need to make these deals at the winter meetings. Just because Jeff Passan's there, who cares? It's odd to me.
Yeah, I almost think they're stroking their ego a little bit at those winter meetings. Like it's just like, can I outdo this guy? Can Brian Cashman outdo this or that? All that. So yeah, I agree with you. I didn't really think about it that way, but it definitely seems to be the case that at the winter meetings, there's always going to be basically a bunch of guys getting moved around. The whole Devin Williams thing with the Brewers, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, because they're cheap bastards, really. I mean, that's how it is. But like, they moved on from Josh Hader in a very similar way. They moved on. They traded Corbin Burns to the Orioles with one more year of control. Like, they just do this with pitchers. And I mean, to their credit, they're a playoff. They're one of those teams like you guys say all the time. You lick the jar. Like they're the epitome of licking the jar in the last 5 years. Like, they make the playoffs, they quickly exit. I think the COVID year they went to the NLCS, but it's. Like, yeah, I'm with you. And Devin, I saw a little bit of his presser with the Yankees there, and he's like, you know what? Like, I know how they operate. So I almost think that they can't even bring him back for this year, if you're the Brewers, because he's just going to be pissed off. He's going to know that, you know what, this team they're not going to re-sign me. I mean, maybe that's the wrong attitude. Like, he could just go out there and pitch one more year regardless. But I think they just, you know what, they're going to cut bait a year early, try and get something for him, because he's going to walk in free agency anyway. It's just, this is small market baseball, I guess. And they find a way to replenish it.
Like, it's you say that, but what I would do is, if I was the Brewers, or if I was a manager of a major league team like that, or general manager or the managing partner or whoever the hell, the guy who's stroking the checks, I'd go public. I said, we offered this guy this much. We said, yeah, we never said we weren't going to sign him. We tried to sign him. We gave him everything he possibly could. And don't make it public per se. Like, don't come out in a press conference and have all of your banners up, but just leak things here and there, and make the because once the inmates run the asylum, which is happening in Milwaukee, and then let the fans. What you're doing is you're letting the fans know that you're still trying to compete, not giving up, like you did with Hader, like you did with Burns. Like, if you can say, no, we gave it an effort to sign this guy, and he basically said, after this year, I'm leaving, and shoot high. Like, these guys are going to make how much anyway, so why not just give it to him? If you're giving a guy 18, give him 21. Who cares? Like, it's just a way, and to make your franchise viable, and to say, you know what, we're doing all we can to win a World Series, or to get to a World Series even, and then these guys are saying, no, we're leaving. Put it in their court a little bit. Don't let the inmates run the asylum. And I think that's what Milwaukee has to try to do, instead of saying, yeah, he wasn't going to sign here anyways, so why even have a franchise then? Screw it. You just give up. I just think there's other ways to go about it than just saying, yeah, well, he wasn't going to sign here. Well, you don't know. You don't know if the pretty girl's going to go to the prom with you if you don't ask her. Like, it's kind of that simple.
Yeah, no, I agree. And the thing is, like, he said that they didn't even offer him a deal. So I don't know if maybe they offered him a deal and it wasn't even close to competitive. And by that, he means they didn't offer me a deal. Like, we don't know behind closed doors. Like, they might have offered him, 50% less than anybody else would offer. Like, who knows? But for him to come out and say that, I mean, hopefully he's telling the truth. You like to think that, but it's all a scheme anyway. Maybe he didn't want to be there, the whole bit there. But I mean, now the Yankees have at least team control of him this year. I mean, if he has a good year, I wouldn't be surprised they bring him back. The Yankees, of all teams, I mean, there's a couple others out there, like the Brewers, for example. They can build a bullpen with, like, they can just find guys. Like, Brian Cashman finds guys. The Brewers find guys. So, I mean, I understand it from the Brewers' perspective, as well as, you want to get something for him before he walks. The last thing you want is an Ohtani situation where the Angels get nothing and then are just stuck. But
there is that.
they constantly do this, and I don't know. It's kind of like a Tampa Bay Rays situation. Like you're just finding guys. And I mean, to the Brewers' credit, they've done it, but they still haven't done it enough. Like, how do you compete with the Dodgers, the Mets? That how do you compete with these Goliath, even the Phillies in the NL? Like there's a lot of teams that just have those guys, and you have like these type of guys. Like it's just you're a peg down from all that.
Yeah, and that's like the thing with this trade. Like basically, you went Nestor Cortez for Williams. Are you a better team? No, you're
No,
not. Like
no.
Nestor Cortez is Nestor Cortez. Is he going to get you 20 wins? No. Is like, and I mean, no, that wins don't count anymore for starting pitchers, and I get that they're innings eaters. Is Cortez going to throw more innings? Yeah, because he's a starter and not a closer. And so there is that, but I don't know. I think there's a million, not a million, but there's 1,000 Nestor Cortezes out there that are coming out of college that you can pay less, and you need that guy in the back end because bullpens win championships. Bullpens get you there, and for them to give up, I think and this goes back like you said, like you can't compete, and how do you compete against the Dodgers? How do you compete against the Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies? Well, you try. They have money. Like there's no way you have a franchise that I don't know what the Milwaukee Brewers ownership what they do for the rest of for their income, but they probably have a couple of bucks. And so if you just give up every year, then why even compete? Why even have a team? Move them with the Oakland A's. Share a stadium in Sacramento. Screw it. Like if you're just going to give up year in year out and then complain, and then because wasn't it just this week that they signed a 20-year deal with whatever that county is to help pay for the renovation of the stadium.
Yeah, they're signed through 2050 at their field there. I think it's AmFam Field.
American Family Clam, whatever. Yeah, AmFam Clam, something. But it's so they're getting subsidized by the government. They're like on and on it goes. So they have money, and just give up year in year out. It's got to be tough to be a Brewers fan saying, "Well, we were close, and then we had this guy, and he's really good, and now we have Nestor Cortez." Like it doesn't make sense to me.
I give them credit. It's almost like they maximize what they have, but it's never enough what they do have. Like it's just like they string together a starting pitching. Like at the beginning of the year, we did kind of like a prediction thing with a couple guys I get on here with, and like two of us picked the Cubs to win that division. I mean, just based on roster and just how you think the team's going to play. And then you look at the Brewers and somehow they rattle off. I mean, I know the division's not that good at all, but over 90 wins again. It's like you look at the rotation, you're like, how the hell did they even manage to do this? But it's kind of like the Orioles, for example, who the farm system's been built up so well, but now they have Corbin Burns sitting there, like he pitched lights out for you last year. He's still fairly young, and you're probably not gonna re-sign him. It's like you have a crown jewel in your organization already. He was already there. Like I know it sucks to pay these guys. Like no one wants to pay these guys, an astronomical amount of money unless you have, Yankee money, Dodger money, and stuff like that. But they all, like you said, they all have money. And I just, and it's not like you're giving them $250 million a year. You're giving them 30, 40 million a year, sure, which is a shit ton of money. Don't get me wrong, but you're making that back. Like you're easily making it back. And I just, if you're the Orioles, like I look at that situation where, the Red Sox are rumored to be in with the Corbin Burns thing, and the Dodgers, like the Mets. It's like, here's your chance to just say, okay, and here's your chance to say to the fan base, we're taking this seriously. Because if you let him go and you try and replace him with a bunch of younger guys, you're not getting Corbin Burns under 3 years.
You don't know what you're getting.
Yeah. Like you don't even know what you're getting at best. At best, you don't know what you're getting.
Prospects are cool, but championships are cooler. You don't know what you're getting from some kid. You have no idea. You have they have their guys who check their arms and whatever it might be, but you don't know. When you have a known commodity, why get rid of him until here's your contract, here's what it is, keep him. Like I know you don't want to lose a guy, but if like Ohtani was that's an outlier. Like he was never staying with the Angels because the Angels stink. But so that's a complete outlier. Like if you have an opportunity to win, like how much does one home playoff game get you? Like how much money? It's got to be in the millions for one game. Tickets and beer and hot dogs and whatever.
Just the merchandise. You're in the playoff. Like you got the AL, playoffs, whatever. Like
that people buy for whatever reason. And if they don't sell, they end up in Guatemala. Some kids wearing it for whatever. But it's I don't understand. Like, if you don't try and then claim that you're poor and then claim that, well, how do we compete? Well, you have the pieces. You have the same chances to get the same pieces everybody else does. Like yeah, you might not get them at free agency, but when you draft and develop these kids and you have them for a certain amount of time, utilize them. Don't just go, well, we're not going to trade. We're not going to be able to sign. Let's just get rid of them. We tried. But you didn't try. Because you never save money saving money ever. Like, you got to go out and spend a little bit, and you got to figure a way to do it. Yeah, and for these small markets, I get it. Like, I totally understand it. But it's a player, right? It's go out and get it. Go out and get the guy and figure a way to get it done, because it's and hold on to guys, because if you just keep trading guys away, what are you giving your fan base? And then you get pissed off that your fan base. So it took me until 8:29 a.m. on Saturday to swear, but if that's not a swear word anymore, but to just give up on your team, I just, and then to cry, we can't. I don't think it's a can't thing. It's a won't thing with these guys. I really like, why not go the other way around and say, okay, well, we have this guy for one more year. Let's go add a couple pieces instead of subtracting.
Yeah, I mean, and make the plunge while you can. Like the Orioles, there's teams out there that, like, their farm system isn't going to be. I mean, yeah, you want to think it's going to be good forever, but you don't know. It can change, and then you hold on to these prospects, and just because the farm system's good, you bring them up to the major leagues, and they're a deer in headlights, and they can't figure it out, and it's so. Yeah, I mean, you got to capitalize. Like, I look at the Orioles as a perfect example of that. Like, You've now, you've scratched the surface. You haven't won a playoff game. You got swept both times. You go to the AL, wild card round there. Well, the year before the divisional round, and get swept in both situations. So you almost backtrack this year, losing the division to the Yankees. Like I said, you have Corbin Burns right there. I mean, he's the number one on pretty much any team.
Any team.
Yeah. Like, outside of, teams that already have like
there's a 1, he'd be a 1A.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know, that is like a golden opportunity for them to capitalize. I know, you don't want to give a pitcher a long-term deal just because, God knows what they'll be when 35, 36, 37. But yeah, you got to take a chance. And like, with new ownership, I look for the Orioles to do that type of thing, but we don't know. That's the thing. We don't know where their head really is. They can say all the right things and do, operate a certain way. But then when it comes down to spending money, who's going to push their chips to the middle of the table? That's the thing.
And like, you talk about the Yankees, and you think, like, after the 2009 World Series, and then their championship window closed, and then they kept Jeter around for probably too long, and they kept Mariano around, and on it goes, and they weren't winning anything for a few years there. But when they saw a small window there in 2017, when Judge first came up, and like, hey, we got a pretty good club here. Let's add some pieces. And now people are complaining the Yankees are out there spending blah, blah, blah. Again, they're all mad and everything else, and still hasn't worked. But the thing is that they're in a championship window right now with that same Aaron Judge 7-8 years later. They have to spend. Like, if you're spending $40 million on one guy, and then you're spending 38 on this guy and this, you have to add pieces, because otherwise you're just spending $40 million to spend $40 million. Like, you have to add these pieces, because their championship window is closing, and it's crappy to say, but they probably overpaid for Fried at his age. When it's all said and done, he'll be 52, I think. Like, it's but you kind of have to if you're going to compete, do it, and you have to add pieces. And because like I said, if you're just spending $36 million to have Garrett Cole on your team, and then not put anybody around him, well, what's the point?
Yeah, you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out on the entire franchise. Like, I totally agree with you. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying you can buy a championship when you don't try to make an effort. It's obvious. You're the Pittsburgh Pirates, you're the Diamondbacks, you're these teams that they don't even attempt to like, really. I mean, the Diamondbacks have kind of gotten some guys through their system that have made things better, but it's not like they're going out and landing even Cody Bellinger, like we talk about.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of Belly Up Sports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at righteousfelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
You know, like we talk about the Yankees there. Like, I mean, that's kind of been written on the wall for a couple of years. I think that you know, Cody Bellinger wanted to go to the Yankees. You know, the Cubs get him, and this and that. Now they go out and get him. Did you like that move? And do you think that'll be effective? I mean, a guy pops home, like he has the ability to hit home runs. He's kind of been inconsistent the last couple of years after he was one of the best hitters in baseball there for a little bit.
And that's the thing, he was. Right, and I don't know how much upside he has left. I hope he proves me wrong, because he was an MVP and everything else, and he's won in places. I think he's a really good player. I don't think he's a great player. He could get hot, but I also think he's on the downhill slope of his career. Like I don't know how much you're going to get out of him, and if you can get 1 year out of him or 2 years out of him, great. But I just don't know if he's the he helps. I'm not gonna say no, we don't want him, because it's a spendy. He's not cheap, but he's really good. But how long is he going to be good? And like he said, like he's so hot and cold, and I think it just his half baked looked all the time kind of scared me. I don't know what's going to happen there, but it's he's a really good player. Like he's a really good player, but you just don't know for how long. If you can keep him healthy and you can get 130 games out of the guy, why not? Like it can't hurt. Like it can't hurt.
I mean, even if he gives you, like, in today's world, which is, you know how baseball's changed with the batting averages and stuff, but if he would give you 260, 275 with 25 to 30 home runs, like, I would take that. You know what I mean? It's hard to
Juan Soto honestly, numbers.
What's that?
So Juan Soto numbers for a third of the price.
Yeah, I mean, damn. I mean, he did hit like 40 last year, but I think that's. I mean, but to that point, I think Bellinger's a lefty. Like that's
short shot. That'll be good. Like it's going to help the Yankees. Like they're a better team with him than without him.
Right, like, and I think, and I almost thinking Soto's numbers are inflated because of that short porch. So like I will die on that hill. I mean, we'll see this coming year. That'll be the test for him, but Citi Field is not Yankee Stadium. Like that is far from a hitter's park. Like that's honestly that's like a pitcher's park, if anything. So
and having big number 99 hitting beside you, that helps your batting average a little bit too.
Yeah, and kind of switching over to the Mets there. I mean, if you're the Mets, I think as much as Pete Alonso might have his deficiencies, I think you want to keep. Unless you go out, I don't know any other power bat other than Goldschmidt still out there. I mean, they can play first. So if I'm the Mets, I'm probably thinking, you know what? Let's just bring Pete back. He hits you 30 to 40 home runs every year. Like even if his average sucks, this past season, like, I mean, then you have a little bit more protection for Soto there. Like there's not really another guy in that lineup that. I mean, yeah, Lindor hits home runs, but he's not like known to be a power threat. Like Pete Alonso is at any point can hit a 3-run home run. It's just one of those guys. So
it's funny, like this Soto thing. It's the gift that keeps on giving for podcasters, because you can just keep talking about it. Like, and I was talking to some baseball guys again yesterday about this, and like everyone's like, "What the hell happened here? Like, why did it get to that price?" Like, and nobody has an answer. Like it's just like he's not even the best in his division. Like Acuna Jr. Like it's nobody knows why or how come. It's just this is what it is. And when the signing came about, then they had his press conference. I think it was this week. I wasn't surprised that nobody in the Yankees had talked to Juan Soto since that World Series game. It wasn't a shock to me. Like to anybody. The guy's he's a me guy, and we talked about it before. There's a reason why he's on his fourth team in how many years, right? It's not a shock. Like I think there's going to be. This is easy podcast BS. Throw some crap on the wall, something on the stick. But I think there's going to be buyer's remorse in about 3 years with this guy. Like that's a lot of dough for not much return. Like the Yankees were because they didn't sign Soto, they were able to make these deals. They're able to sign Fried, and that's I think that's more important for a guy. And I mean, overpaid. We talked about it before, but the thing is, I have a hard time giving a guy that much money who has a chance to affect the game once every 3 innings that hits, and so he gets one hit sometimes every 9 innings. That's it, maybe 2. So how, like, what's that worth? Is it worth 51 million bucks? Not a chance. A pitcher, at least you're going to get. He's good for X amount of outs a game. There's some bang for the buck there. For a guy to go get 2 hits in 9 innings, think about that, and give him 51 million bucks. I don't know.
I think it would be different if he played a Gold Glove right field, but he doesn't. You know, that's where I don't know. It's not like we're talking about, you know, Ken Griffey Jr. Like it's just not a guy that, I don't know. He's to me, he's a I mean, you saw it last year. I think he's a liability almost in right field. Like he never impressed me in the field. Like, guy can hit, the guy can rake, but yeah, I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I do. I think these contracts. I mean, it's every sport, right? How many times have we talked about the quarterbacks where it's just like Justin Herbert? What has he done? And with Trevor Lawrence, what has he done? None of these guys have done anything. Like, you look like you can play, but okay, almost everybody does. Like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Like, and now they're talking about, you know, your guy, the Red Rocket there, Sam Darnold, getting paid, you know, 40, 50 sheets. And I'm like, dude, he had one good year. One, and who's to say he doesn't shit the bed in the playoffs? Like, I just,
tomorrow. Like, it could, like, it's just I don't know. And that's why I like these owners, when they cry broke, and I don't think NFL owners do as much, but when they, like, well, they must, because they move their team from here to here to here to here, whatever, done deal. So they're the same way. And like, we aren't winning, we got to do something. Well, that's your fault. You can keep giving these guys, and I'm all for athletes making money and everything else, but man, oh man, the only reason, like we've talked before, salary cap and things like that, it's just to protect owners from themselves. It's not to stop players from making money, right? It's to protect the owners against the owners. Like, if there wasn't one in hockey, there would be guys making how much, and they'll all be playing for the Rangers. Every single one of them be playing for the Rangers, right? It's just, here it is. Because you can only make max, not max, but like just the way salary cap works, you can make probably 13, 14 million bucks so you can fill in the rest of your roster. If there was no salary cap, there would be 20 guys playing for the Rangers making 40 million bucks a year. Right?
Yeah.
And what's that going to do? What's that going to do you? No, it's just to protect these owners. It drives a guy nuts. Like, it really does. And then, like what I said, like when they start crying foul, and like the guy out in Oakland, he's moving his team and still doesn't have a stadium or a plan, and might end up back in Oakland anyways. It's laughable. Like, it's actually laughable.
Yeah, and it's so, I think it's so mishandled too. Like, I'm not saying that they need to do, like, I'm sure becoming a sports franchise owner isn't like, I mean, it might be as easy as saying, I have this much money, I want to buy it. Like, I don't know if baseball does I think they need to get people that want to, they can say what they want. So I guess it's a hard process. But what I'm trying to get to is, they need guys that want to win. Like you like the Pirates owner. He doesn't care if he's printing money, he's printing money. It's just, that's the way it is. They built a beautiful stadium there for him. And it's like, they don't even put a winning. Like, when's the last time they were a threat, in the NL? It just doesn't like they found a couple miracle years, like 10 years ago. And still they didn't even sniff a World Series out of it. And like, now, how long are they stuck like this? I mean, they get Paul Skeens. Great. You have a great young pitcher. Guy's like, he could win a Cy Young early in his career if he stays like this. But what's it matter if you can't, like, there's so many examples.
It'll be the same thing 3 years down the road when he's up for renewal or arbitration or whatever it might be. See ya. Right?
Yep.
Oh, we can't afford him. Well, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? You could afford him if you put a winning. And that's the thing about being, like I was going to say this earlier, that's the thing about, like, if you go to a Yankee game, it's more expensive. It is. Like, if you go to compared to going to an A's game, right? It's just, but if your owner is actually putting in an attempt to win and giving your team a chance to make the playoffs and do some damage and go to the World Series, you don't mind spending that extra $10 here and there. I mean, it's ridiculous spending $22 for a beer, but that's another story for another day. But Like if your ticket's a little more expensive because we have all these guys and you have a chance to win and we got 95 wins and okay, we got a chance. You don't mind spending that extra dough. But when when your team's not even trying to win, like you said in Pittsburgh, I don't even want to spend the $12 to get in because what's the point? Like nobody very often, unless you're a complete baseball dork, and nobody really goes to a game to watch their team lose. Not very often, right?
Yeah.
And like there's guys who just go because they love the game, and it's with any sport. But in general, like if your team stinks, they stink. Like even in football, you look at some of those college football stadiums with Eastern Kentucky or whoever, you would just pick a team. There's no one there because they stink, and that's football. And football's huge; it's massive. But when your team stinks, it stinks, and no one goes. So you have to try and compete and be great. And these owners and it's now going to college football too. We'll probably talk about that, but how it's just you got to try and compete on a yearly basis, and you got to find ways with the portal and NIL money and everything. You got to compete, or else you get left behind. And you got to find ways to do it. You have to, because the money that these teams generate in pro sports and in college, it's out there. People are willing to spend it, right? And the TV deals and everything else, it's out there. So why not try to make more money and capitalize on the investment that you have? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys, like you said, you got to spend money to make money. And I think some of these owners just expect. I don't know if I don't even know if they expect it. Did the O's or the A's owner there expect people to show up regardless of the product? I don't think he did at some point. Unless he's just completely delusional. Like,
No, he wanted it to be empty so he could say, "Look,
yeah,
I have you have to let me move." And
right,
and the other owners said, "Yeah, you're right. You have to move because now they can do it too, right?" Because now
yeah,
something goes sideways. Because if the other owners would have voted him against him that move, then they would have been stuck too. So the second that the tenant starts leaking a little bit, the second they want a new building, the second that it's not going so well for them, and they're not making 300 million a year, they can say, "Yeah, we got to move to Nebraska or wherever.
yep.
We got a deal in place over here. We don't have a building yet, but we have a deal in terms that we
It's
can move. So now the owners, every single owner at any time can move whenever they want.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like I mean, now the way you put that is it's almost like pure sabotage. Like we're gonna sabotage our franchise to the point where people don't show up. Like our building, like you said, the building's breaking down, it's leaking, it's
Yeah.
field sucks. Like we're not doing any, like there's no concerts going on. Like you're completely just erating a franchise to the point where it's like, okay, now this is what we are, and we have accepted that. And like you said, the other owner, I think the Padres owner that passed away, he was like the only one that kind of stood up and said, you know what, we need to keep the A's in Oakland. And I mean, yeah, then he passed away. So that's just, I guess, bad timing. But it's one of those things like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you and I both know it's all about money. I mean, we're going to kind of get into college football then, which is couldn't be more about money at this point. But it's, I just, it's a damn shame. I mean, it's like, we could have a whole episode of, to bring that guy on that is an A's fan. Like just situations like this make you really think, well, you know what, it's not so much caring for the fans. It's where do we capitalize? Where do we make the most money? Where's the margin better? Where, all that. It's just, it's sad when you rip a franchise out of a place that was there for, 50 plus years. And then, okay, and then the owner, it's almost, the owners are so out of touch too. Like, I'm not saying all of them are, but like Steve Cohen even is like the money he has. I'm sure he's not thinking late at night, what are the fans like? He doesn't even, that doesn't even cross his mind. It's, I'm going to buy a fucking championship by any means because I'm a Mets fan. I'm a
Mets fan, and I
yeah.
can do it.
Yeah.
Like I have the resources to do it.
And
I don't blame the guy. Right?
No, I don't blame. No, I'm not. That doesn't make him a bad guy.
If I had $14 billion in the bank, I'd probably go buy myself a franchise too and see what I could do with it. But
yeah,
and that's what's wrong with sports. It's that because you can do it. And for get back to like we all started with the Brewers, for them to be trading off their best pieces every year, like what's that telling the fan base? Like to not even attempt to because if you win, you put more butts in the seats, and that's simple.
And
that's simple.
And they've kind of proven they can tread like the thing with them is like they don't really go high, they don't go low, they just kind of stay right where they are. So I guess their argument is
so
okay,
it works for them, right?
We're gonna keep retooling it. We're gonna
We're a player away. We're a player away. We're a player. If that guy wouldn't have left, but he did leave. That's the thing. He did leave.
Exactly.
So why not? I don't know.
I mean, I there's so many ways to look at it. I guess I can look at it like, well, at least they're well run, right? Because other like the A's, you know, they had Matt Chapman, they had Barry Zito. I mean, the list goes on and on.
On and on it goes.
Right, and no more Garcia Parra. Like there's just guys out there, but they don't. They're the opposite of the Brewers. They find guys, like they draft guys. They can produce guys through the system, this and that. They develop them, but the second they get eligible to get out of there, they get out of there. Then it's rare they replenish. Like you'll see 5-10 years of just mediocrity, and then like the Brewers have kind of the last 5-6 years. Okay, we're gonna stay exactly. So I mean, there's credit to the organization, but then it almost all lies on the owner's shoulders at that point, because you've proven the GM can draft, you've proven that the farm system can develop. Now the only missing link is we're not going to spend. Even if a team like that, the Brewers, the Orioles, if they spent another $50 million, who's to say they can't win? Like I'm not saying they have to spend Met money, but they might develop players better than the Mets. They might bring farm system guys through the process better than the Mets. But it doesn't matter because you're not making that one extra. You're 3/4 of the way to the finish line, and then that's it. That's all you got.
And you think about it, $50 million. I mean, it's a lot, obviously, but in the world of professional baseball, it's 3 players. It's and not even 3 great players.
2
it's
sometimes.
3 really good players.
Yeah.
Right. So why not? And they could, over a course of 81 home dates, your profit margins might be a little bit slimmer, but you get those playoff games, man. And that's the thing. Another thing, I don't know if we talked about this because we talked about a lot of stuff that makes sense, but if you win a World Series, that gives you 10 years where you don't have to do anything else, right? If you can pull one off and good, you're gonna be you're okay. Like your manager's gonna be good for another probably 4 at least. Your GM's probably good for 5 or 6, and you're going to be loved for a long time. Like you can sell T-shirts 10 years later. We're the 2024 World Series champions, right? And it's that gives you such a long leash to your fan base. Look at the Cubs. That Theo Epstein he's a legend forever.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh, especially on a team like that. Yeah, I mean, now getting back to the Brewers, they have never won a World Series. Getting to a team like the Cleveland Guardians, like if you win a World Series there, you're forever royalty, forever.
They're naming schools after you.
I mean, even the Yankees had that. Okay, yeah, they won a championship every year, but at least I think that gave them 5 years after 2009. I mean, I don't think people were like, we need to win. Like maybe after 3.
Oh, we got it. We're good.
Yeah, it gives you a buffer zone, and especially like teams like the Orioles that haven't won since the 80s, the Phillies, like, the Phillies won it sooner than that, but teams that aren't like the Reds. If the Reds made them, just teams like that haven't even sniffed it in so long that, I'm with you. It's I don't know. I'd love to see what the operating revenue of like the Cincinnati Reds is. I'd love actually, after everything's paid, the building, all that. I'd love to see what these and if it's a gross number, then you got to blame your owner. At some point,
what are they bringing in from their TV deals? What are they bringing in from the MLB app? Blah blah blah. All the revenue sharing and everything else. That goes
merchandise, parking. It goes and goes and goes and goes.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, when you think about it, like the Jeter's first World Series with the Yankees was 28 years ago. 28. It's a long time. He's been retired for 10, and he's still a legend, right? And there's people who aren't 28 years old who are going to Yankee Stadium putting on freaking the Jeter jerseys and the whole bit, right? They weren't even alive. They didn't even see him in his heyday. No, and that's not just Jeter. That's all of them. You win a World Series, that gives you, because then you win 4, so that gives you how many years? And then they won in 2009. He was done in 2014. And he's still a legend, right? Jeter's off, but like Bernie Williams or whoever it might be. All these guys and win. And if you win, it takes care of a lot of problems. A lot of problems.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and when you were talking about that, it kind of put a light bulb on in my head that, think about that too, like, Jeter, because I'm 28 years old. So it's like now I can think like there's how many teams, there's so many teams off the top of my head, like the Reds, the Pirates, they haven't even won a World Series in that amount of time. Like
in your lifetime.
Yeah.
I think
And
the Reds won in 1990. Yeah, 1990, I think. They beat the A's.
Like, and the list goes on and on. Like the Blue Jays haven't won one. I mean, maybe I don't know. Yeah, still before I was thinking. I know they won in the '90s and beat the
92
Phillies.
and 93 they won back to back. Yeah,
but like
that's a long time.
And they spend a lot of, like, I'm not saying it's like, you talk about all the time, winning is hard, but like you can't find one in there. Like I don't know, because you see some teams do it. Like, I mean, the Texas Rangers are a perfect example of that. Like they didn't win for a while, and they didn't even have that. I mean, they had great pitching, but like I truly believe if you or I could, run the Texas Rangers that offseason, we could probably do, like, I don't think it's rocket science. Like, you're looking at the stats, you're looking at who's good, who's not 50 years old, and like if you can go get them, go get. Like they went and got Evaldi was on that team. That guy that went to the Diamondbacks, can't remember his name now, but Montgomery. Like there's a bunch of guys that, like, if you can go get, like, if they didn't go get those guys at the deadline, they went got 2 or 3 guys. We might, maybe they didn't
pieces. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance.
They were a perfect example of, we're on the cusp. Like, we're a good team. We might even be a great team, but we're on the cusp of being a World Series team. And they saw that window, and they fell off now, but they got it. They found it. They made it happen. They got the World Series. Like, it's just, and it doesn't always work out that way. I get it. But when you don't, like, I guess the whole thing we've been talking about here for 40 minutes is like, if you don't try, then how do you ever know? You'll never know.
You'll never know. Like, I don't know. Just to give up, go, we can't. Well, then don't. Then don't.
Yeah, don't at all. Yeah.
Then don't charge admission for tickets. Let us come for free. If that's how it's going to be, everything's just free. Roll in. Done deal. Yeah, I don't know. It's
mind-boggling. It really, especially like those teams, like the Brewers, or like the teams that have a chance. Like, we're not talking about the Marlins or the White Sox. Like, we're talking about teams that actually, they're there. They're at the party. It's just they don't have a drink. They're there, but they don't participate. Like, it's like, why? Yeah. What's is it
why
really
not just stay home on a Friday night then?
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes zero sense to me.
If you're close, go for it. Is what
you have to, because you don't know you can go get back there again.
Don't. Yeah. Look at all the Reds, the Blue Jays. How many teams we talk about that haven't won it? Like in 30 years, they haven't won it. It's like, if you're close, why not? Go then. Know when to go and go. But kind of switching gears to the